Billionaire doctor sees the first man she loved cleaning her hotel as a janitor dad again. The marble floor of Hotel Melbrock's grand lobby reflected Celeste Davenport's stilettos like a mirror as she stepped through the revolving doors at precisely 7:47 a.m. She wore her signature royal blue blazer over denim shorts, an outfit that had graced the covers of Forbes and Business Insider, the billionaire CEO who refused to dress like one. At 24, she'd already spent 3 years transforming her late father's modest beachfront hotel into a luxury empire worth $890 million. But this morning, returning from a conference in Miami, she wasn't thinking about quarterly earnings or expansion plans. She was thinking about the ghost she'd spent 6 years trying to forget. The lobby bustled with the usual Monday morning chaos. Guests checking out, staff hustling between the concierge desk and the restaurant, the soft jazz playing from hidden speakers. Celeste barely noticed any of it. She'd walked this path 1,000 times, her mind usually cataloging problems to solve, improvements to make, numbers to crunch. Today felt different. The air conditioning seemed colder. The morning light through the floor-to-ceiling windows seemed sharper. Then she saw him. Time didn't slow down like in the movies. It stopped completely. A man in a blue maintenance uniform knelt near the fountain, yellow-gloved hands working a scrub brush across the floor in methodical circles. His back was to her, but Celeste would have recognized those shoulders anywhere. Broad but lean, the way they moved with unconscious grace even while performing the most mundane task. Dark hair, longer than he used to wear it, curled slightly at the nape of his neck. He was humming something under his breath, a habit that made her heart clench with recognition. No, it can't be. Her briefcase slipped from nerveless fingers, hitting the marble with a crack that echoed through the lobby. Several heads turned. The man at the fountain froze, then slowly stood and turned around. Ryan Walker. 6 years evaporated. Celeste was 18 again, sneaking out of her father's penthouse suite to meet the boy who made her laugh, who taught her to ride his motorcycle, who kissed her like she was the only thing that mattered in the world. Ryan at 22 had been all rough edges and wild dreams, a mechanic's apprentice who worked on bikes and talked about freedom like it was something you could hold in your hands. Ryan at 28 was something else entirely. The rough edges had been sanded down by time and hardship. His face was leaner, with lines at the corners of his gray eyes that hadn't been there before. But those eyes, God, those eyes still held the same intensity, the same quiet intelligence that had made her fall hopelessly in love with a boy everyone said wasn't good enough for a Davenport. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Surprise? Recognition? Something else? Miss Davenport, he said quietly, formally, like they were strangers. The sound of his voice, deeper now, careful, broke something inside her. Ryan, she managed. Her own voice sounded strange, too high, too breathless. What are you? How long have you been working here? 4 months. He set down the scrub brush with deliberate precision, peeled off his yellow gloves. I handle maintenance and janitorial, started in March. 4 months. He'd been here 4 months, and she hadn't known. How was that possible? She knew every employee, reviewed every hire. Then again, she'd been traveling constantly, opening new properties in Charleston and Savannah, dealing with the Nashville acquisition. The Costa Rica resort had consumed 6 weeks alone. I didn't realize, she said lamely. No reason you would. Ryan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I keep to the back of house mostly. Early morning shift. There was so much unsaid in those clipped sentences. So many years and miles and silences packed into the space between them. Celeste wanted to say 1,000 things. Why didn't you call? Why didn't you write? Did you think about me? Did you hate me? But her throat had closed around the words. The moment stretched taut like a rubber band about to snap. Daddy! Daddy, look what I found! A small blonde girl in a yellow sundress came barreling around the corner, ponytail flying, white sneakers squeaking on the marble. She held something in her hands, chattering excitedly. She was perhaps 7 years old, with Ryan's gray eyes and a gap-toothed smile that lit up her whole face. Ryan's expression transformed instantly. The careful blankness melted into something warm and real as he crouched down to her level. Hey, Hannibal? I thought you were coloring in the break room with Miss Patricia. I was, but look. Hannah thrust her prize toward him. A starfish, dried and perfect. I found it by the pool storage. Can we keep it? Please, please, please? That's pretty special, Ryan said seriously, examining the starfish like it was treasure. But starfish belong to the ocean, remember? Maybe we should put it in one of the decorative shells by the fountain so other people can enjoy it too. Okay, Hannah agreed easily. Then her attention shifted. She looked up at Celeste with unabashed curiosity. You're really tall. Are you a model? Despite everything, Celeste felt her lips twitch. No, sweetheart. I work here. Are you Daddy's boss? Hannah asked with the blunt directness of children. He says his boss is super smart and built this whole hotel almost by herself. That's you, right? 'Cause you're wearing fancy shoes. Celeste glanced at Ryan. He'd stood up, one hand gently resting on his daughter's shoulder, and his expression was carefully neutral again. But she saw something flash in his eyes. Pride? Embarrassment? The same old defiance that used to make her want to shake him and kiss him at the same time? Yes, Celeste said softly, forcing herself to look back at Hannah. I suppose I am. Cool, Hannah beamed. Daddy says you gotta work really, really hard to build something. He's teaching me about engines. I can name all the parts of a carburetor. Hannah, Ryan said quietly. Ms. Davenport is busy. We should let her. It's fine, Celeste interrupted. She crouched down, ignoring the way her heart hammered. Up close she could see that Hannah had a small scar on her chin and wore a bracelet made of colorful beads. A carburetor, huh? That's pretty advanced. I barely know what that is. It mixes the air and gas for the engine, Hannah explained eagerly. Daddy has the coolest motorcycle ever. It's blue like the ocean and it goes vroom. She made exaggerated engine noises, spreading her arms like she was riding. Sometimes he lets me sit on it and pretend I'm riding to faraway places. A blue motorcycle. Celeste felt the world tilt slightly. Your dad always did love motorcycles, she said carefully, standing up. She looked at Ryan. You still have a bike? Something complicated crossed his face. Yeah, a Harley. Been restoring it for a few years now. A Harley Davidson, Celeste repeated slowly. Her father had owned a Harley, a vintage one, blue as a summer sky, that he'd loved more than almost anything. He'd died in a car accident 6 years ago, 3 weeks after Celeste and Ryan's relationship had imploded. The bike had disappeared shortly after. Her mother had sold everything, desperate to pay debts Celeste hadn't known existed until she was 20, and trying to save her father's dying hotel legacy. Where did you get it? The question came out sharper than she intended. Ryan's jaw set. Bought it from an estate sale. 5 years ago. It was in rough shape. Took me 2 years of weekends to get it running right. An estate sale? Celeste's mind raced. Here? In town? Yeah. His eyes held hers steadily. Why? Because her father's bike had been sold in an estate sale 5 years ago. Because Celeste had been at Yale, drowning in business school and grief, when her mother liquidated everything. Because the idea that Ryan, her Ryan, the boy she'd been forbidden to see, the boy who'd vanished without a word, had somehow ended up with her father's most prized possession felt like fate or cruelty or both. No reason, she lied. Just curious. Hannah tugged on Ryan's sleeve. Daddy, I'm hungry. Can we have breakfast soon? In a bit, baby girl. Ryan glanced at his watch. My shift ends at 8:30. Then we'll go home and I'll make you pancakes, okay? With chocolate chips? If you promise to eat some fruit too. Deal. Hannah stuck out her hand solemnly. Ryan shook it with equal gravity, and the gesture was so tender, so normal that Celeste felt something crack inside her chest. This was his life now. A daughter. A maintenance job. Pancakes and chocolate chips and promises about fruit. It was so far removed from the wild boy who talked about riding his motorcycle to California, about freedom and adventure and never settling down, that she almost couldn't reconcile the two versions of him. Ms. Davenport, her assistant manager Marcus, appeared at her elbow, tablet in hand and anxiety written across his face. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation with the governor's party. They want to move their event from Saturday to Friday night, and we already have the Chen wedding booked for the ballroom. Give me 5 minutes, Celeste said without taking her eyes off Ryan. I'll be right there. Marcus hesitated, clearly surprised, then nodded and retreated. The spell broke. Ryan stepped back, pulling Hannah with him. We should get out of your way. Come on, Hannah-Belle. Let's go put that starfish somewhere nice. But I wanted to ask the lady about her shoes. Later, baby. They were leaving. Ryan was just going to walk away like they were nothing. Like those summers hadn't happened, like she hadn't given him her heart wrapped in promises they'd both been too young to keep. Ryan. The word burst out before Celeste could stop it. Wait. He paused, looking back over his shoulder. Hannah had already skipped ahead toward the fountain, ponytail bouncing. We should talk, Celeste said quietly. Properly. Not here, but soon. Ryan's expression shuddered completely. With all due respect, Miss Davenport, I don't think that's a good idea. Please. She hated how desperate she sounded. It's been 6 years. Don't you think we owe each other at least a conversation? I think, Ryan said slowly, each word carefully chosen, that the past should stay in the past. You have your life. I have mine. His gaze flicked to Hannah, who was carefully placing the starfish in a decorative shell display. Some things are better left alone. Before Celeste could respond, he walked away. Just like that. Long strides, head up, shoulders straight. The posture of a man who still had his pride even if he had nothing else. Celeste stood frozen in the middle of her lobby, watching him crouch down beside his daughter, watching them whisper together and laugh about something. Her eyes burned. Her chest felt too tight. Some things are better left alone. Maybe he was right. Maybe digging up the past would only hurt them both. Maybe she should focus on what she'd built, on the empire that bore her father's name, on the future instead of the ghost of a boy who'd once made her believe in forever. But then Hannah looked back at her and waved, and Ryan's hand tightened on his daughter's shoulder in a gesture that looked almost protective, and Celeste knew with absolute certainty that she couldn't let this go. She'd spent 6 years wondering what happened. 6 years assuming Ryan had moved on, forgotten her, built a life that didn't include the spoiled rich girl who'd been too afraid to fight for them. And maybe he had. Maybe this job was just a job, and she was just the boss, and that summer had meant nothing in the end. But she had to know. The day crawled by in a blur of meetings and crises and decisions that normally would have consumed her attention. Instead, Celeste found herself staring at spreadsheets without seeing numbers, nodding through presentations without hearing words. Her mind kept circling back to Ryan's face, to the careful politeness in his voice, to the way he'd looked at her like she was a stranger. But we weren't strangers. We were everything. At 3 p.m., she finally escaped to her office. Her father's old office, though she'd redecorated it years ago. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the beach. Her desk held 3 monitors, a crystal paperweight her father had given her for her 16th birthday, and a framed photo of him standing in front of the original Hotel Melbrock, beaming with pride. She picked up the photo, studying his face. Marcus Davenport had been a dreamer, a man who'd started with nothing and built something beautiful. He'd also been stubborn, traditional, and absolutely certain that his daughter deserved better than a mechanic's son with grease under his fingernails and a motorcycle in his driveway. You would have liked him, Celeste whispered to the photo, if you'd given him a chance. He was smart, Dad. He read philosophy books and fixed engines and looked at the stars like they meant something. He made me laugh. He made me feel real. The photo didn't answer. It never did. Celeste set it down and pulled up the employee database on her computer. She told herself she was just being thorough, just checking Ryan's file like any responsible CEO would. But her hands shook slightly as she typed his name. Walker, Ryan James. Diob, March 15th, 1997. Position, maintenance technician. Hired, March 12th, 2025. Previous employment, Murphy's Auto Repair, 2019-2024. Jensen Mechanical, 2017-2019. Emergency contact, Hannah Bell Walker, daughter. Address, 2847 Coral Street, apartment 3B. The file was sparse, impersonal. Nothing about where he'd been during those missing years between 2017 and 2019. Nothing about Hannah's mother. Nothing about why a man who'd once talked about opening his own custom motorcycle shop was scrubbing floors in a hotel. Celeste closed the file and stared at the address. Coral Street, the old fishing district, where the apartments were small and the rent was cheap and the ocean smell mixed with diesel from the cannery. 3 blocks over. She'd driven past there 100 times without really seeing it. Her intercom buzzed. Ms. Davenport, the Charleston team is online too about the waterfront property. They need an answer today. Transfer them to my cell, Celeste said. I'm going out. She grabbed her keys and left before she could talk herself out of it. Coral Street looked different in the late afternoon light. Less shabby maybe, or maybe Celeste was just seeing it through new eyes. The apartment buildings were old but maintained, with window boxes full of flowers and kids' bikes chained to railings. Number 2847 was a 3-story walk-up painted pale yellow with blue shutters. Apartment 3B was on the top floor. Celeste climbed the stairs slowly, her heels echoing on the concrete. She told herself she was being crazy, that showing up at Ryan's home unannounced was crossing a line, that he'd probably slam the door in her face. But she kept climbing anyway. She knocked before she could lose her nerve. Footsteps inside. The door opened a crack held by a chain. Ryan's gray eyes widened with unmistakable shock. What are you doing here? Can we talk? Celeste asked. Please? How did you? He stopped, jaw tightening. Employee files. Right. Very professional. I know, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't talk to me at the hotel and I just... She trailed off, suddenly aware of how insane this looked. I need to understand what happened. Ryan stared at her for a long moment. Then, with obvious reluctance, he unchained the door and opened it wider. Fine, but keep your voice down. Hannah's doing homework. The apartment was small but immaculate. A living room with a worn couch, a coffee table covered in coloring books and crayons, a kitchen visible through an open doorway. The walls were mostly bare except for a few of Hannah's drawings taped up with care. Through another doorway, Celeste could see Hannah at a desk bent over a workbook, tongue poking out in concentration. What caught her attention, though, was the corner of the living room, a makeshift workshop, tools arranged with military precision on a pegboard, parts and pieces of motorcycle engines on a drop cloth, oil cans, rags, a manual open to a page about carburetors. And there, visible through the window that led to a fire escape, was the motorcycle. Even from here, Celeste could see it was beautiful. Glossy blue paint, chrome that gleamed like silver, every line classic and perfect. Her father's bike. She knew it with the same certainty she knew her own name. That's his bike, she said quietly. My dad's, the 1973 Harley-Davidson Superglide. Ryan followed her gaze. His expression was unreadable. I didn't know when I bought it. Not until I was already 2 years into the restoration and found initials carved inside the gas tank. M.D. Marcus Davenport. And you kept it? You didn't think to tell me? Tell you what exactly? Ryan's voice was level, but she heard the edge underneath. I bought it legally. I didn't even know you were in town. I thought you were at Yale, then New York, living your big important life. When I took this job, I didn't expect you to be here. Your mom runs the place. Or she did until I came back 3 years ago and bought her out, Celeste finished. After Dad died and left everything in debt, and she wanted to sell to a development company that would have torn it all down. Ryan's expression shifted slightly. I didn't know that. Why would you? We haven't talked in 6 years. The words came out bitter. You left, Ryan. One day you were there, telling me you loved me, making plans for us to run away together after graduation. The next day you were just gone. No note, no call, nothing. I waited for 3 months before I finally accepted that you weren't coming back. I left? Ryan's voice rose slightly, then he visibly controlled himself, glancing toward Hannah's room. He stepped closer, lowering his voice to a harsh whisper. I wrote you 16 letters, Celeste. 16. I called the hotel so many times they threatened to ban me. I came to your house twice. Your mother's security guys threw me out the second time and told me if I came back, they'd have me arrested for trespassing. So don't stand there and tell me I left. I tried. You're the one who stopped answering. Celeste felt the floor tilt under her feet. What letters, Ryan? I never got any letters. You never called me. I checked my phone every 5 minutes for months, my mother said. She stopped, memory crashing over her like a wave. Her mother, the week after Ryan disappeared. He's gone, Celeste. Whatever you two had, it's over. He made his choice. He didn't want the burden of a girl from a world he'd never belonged to. Let him go. Focus on your future. Her mother had lied. Oh, God, Celeste whispered. She intercepted them. The letters. The calls. She must have. 16 letters, Ryan repeated. His jaw worked. I poured my heart out in those letters. Told you about the job I'd gotten. The garage that hired me, how I was saving every penny so we could make it work. Told you about my mom getting sick, about having to take care of her, about how scared I was, but how much I wanted to prove to your family that I could be worth something. I told you everything, Celeste, and you never wrote back. Not once. The hurt in his voice was raw, fresh, like the wound had never healed. I didn't know, Celeste said desperately. Ryan, I swear to God I didn't know. I thought you left me. I thought you decided I wasn't worth the fight. Wasn't worth the fight? Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. You were the only thing I ever wanted to fight for. But after 6 months of silence, I got the message. You'd moved on. Yale Business School. Your fancy life. I was just the summer fling, right? The bad boy you slummed with before going back to your real world. That's not true. Tears were streaming down Celeste's face now, and she didn't care. You were never just anything to me. You were everything. Every day for the first year I hoped you'd come back. I kept waiting for some sign that what we had was real, that it mattered, that you remembered. Daddy? They both froze. Hannah stood in the doorway to her room, clutching a stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide. Why is the lady crying? Did you make her sad? Ryan's entire demeanor changed instantly. He crossed to Hannah, crouched down, his voice going soft. No, baby girl. Sometimes grown-ups cry even when nobody made them sad. Ms. Davenport and I were just talking about old times. Oh, Hannah considered this. Then she looked at Celeste with the solemn wisdom of children. My teacher says crying is okay. It means you have big feelings. Do you have big feelings about Daddy? Despite everything, Celeste found herself laughing through tears. Yes, sweetheart. Very big feelings. It's okay, Hannah said seriously. Daddy has big feelings too sometimes. I hear him at night when he thinks I'm sleeping. He goes out to the fire escape and sits with his motorcycle and he gets really quiet. And sometimes I think maybe he's crying, but I pretend I don't know, because grown-ups don't like when kids see them cry. Ryan's eyes closed briefly. Hannah, it's true, Hannah insisted. You do, and that's okay, Daddy. Teacher says everybody cries sometimes, even daddies and even people who are really strong. The sweetness of it, the innocence, broke something inside Celeste. This was Ryan's world now. This beautiful, insightful little girl who noticed when her father was sad, who accepted tears as natural, who offered comfort with the simple faith of a child who'd never known anything but love. Your teacher is very smart, Celeste managed. And so are you, Hannah beamed. Then with typical child logic, her attention shifted. We're having spaghetti for dinner. Daddy makes the best spaghetti in the whole world. Do you want to stay? We have enough. Right, Daddy? Hannah, I don't think... Please! Hannah turned imploring eyes on her father. She's sad and crying and spaghetti makes everything better. You always say food brings people together. Ryan looked at Celeste. Really looked at her for the first time since she'd walked into his apartment. His expression was complicated, anger and hurt and something that might have been longing, all tangled together. Stay, he said quietly. We need to finish this conversation anyway. Might as well do it over dinner. Celeste nodded, not trusting her voice. Hannah grabbed her hand with the unself-conscious affection of children. Come on. I'll show you my drawings while Daddy cooks. I drew the ocean and a motorcycle, and a princess and a dragon and a... She chattered on, pulling Celeste toward her room, and Celeste let herself be led. Behind them she heard Ryan in the kitchen, pots clanging, water running, the domestic sounds of a life he'd built without her. Hannah's room was tiny but cheerful, with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling and drawings covering every surface. One picture caught Celeste's attention. A child's rendering of a man and a little girl on a blue motorcycle, surrounded by hearts. That's me and Daddy, Hannah explained proudly. We're going on an adventure to find treasure. It's beautiful, Celeste said softly. You're a very good artist. Daddy says I get it from my mama, Hannah said matter-of-factly. She died when I was a baby. I don't remember her, but Daddy says she was really pretty and really brave and she loved me a lot. The information hit Celeste like a physical blow. Ryan's wife, Hannah's mother, was dead. She'd been forming theories all day about divorce, about custody arrangements, about a woman who'd somehow come between them. But death? That was something else entirely. I'm so sorry, Celeste whispered. Hannah shrugged with the resilience of a child who'd never known differently. It's okay. I have Daddy and he's the best. And Daddy says when people die, they turn into stars. So sometimes we go out at night and we find the brightest star and we say hi to Mama. Daddy cries when we do that. But he says they're happy tears because he's proud that I'm so brave and smart. Celeste had to look away, blinking hard. They talked about other things. Hannah's school, her favorite color, purple, her best friend, a girl named Sophia who could do cartwheels, her dream of becoming a veterinarian or a motorcycle mechanic or maybe both. The little girl was bright, funny, curious, with Ryan's intensity and a joy that seemed unshakable. When Ryan called them for dinner, Celeste followed Hannah back to the living room. The small table had been set with mismatched plates and plastic cups. A pot of spaghetti steamed in the center, and the smell made Celeste's stomach growl. She realized she hadn't eaten since breakfast. They ate mostly in silence except for Hannah's running commentary on everything from her favorite Ninja Turtle, Donatello because he was smart, to the merits of chocolate versus vanilla ice cream. Ryan was quiet, focused on his daughter, cutting her spaghetti into smaller pieces, reminding her to drink her milk. Watching them together, Celeste felt an ache so profound she could barely breathe. This could have been her life, if things had been different, if her mother hadn't interfered, if she and Ryan had found a way. After dinner, Hannah announced she was going to take a bath and went off happily, leaving the adults alone. Ryan cleared the dishes with methodical precision. Celeste helped without asking, falling into an easy rhythm that felt both familiar and strange. They'd cooked together once, in his tiny apartment above the garage where he'd worked that summer. He'd made grilled cheese sandwiches and she'd burned them, and they'd laughed until they cried and then kissed until they forgot about food entirely. She's wonderful, Celeste said quietly. Hannah, you're a good father. I try. Ryan's hands stilled in the soapy water. Her mother, Lily, she got sick when Hannah was 6 months old. Breast cancer. By the time they caught it, it had already spread. She died 4 months later. Ryan, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Lily was. He paused, searching for words. She was kind. Good. She loved Hannah more than anything. We weren't in love. We both knew that going in. But we respected each other and we tried to build something real for Hannah's sake. When she got sick, she made me promise I'd make sure Hannah grew up knowing she was loved, that she was wanted. That's what I'm trying to do. You weren't in love? Celeste asked carefully. Ryan's jaw tightened. How could I be? I was still in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with truth. Past tense? Celeste whispered. I don't know. Ryan turned to face her fully. 6 years is a long time, Celeste. People change. I'm not the same guy I was at 22. I have responsibilities now, a daughter who depends on me, a life that's... He gestured at the small apartment, the makeshift workshop, the evidence of a life lived on the margins. This is what I have. I scrub floors and fix leaky faucets and pinch pennies to make sure Hannah has what she needs. I'm not going anywhere, building anything, I'm just surviving. That's not true, Celeste said fiercely. You're raising an incredible little girl. You restored that motorcycle from almost nothing. You're reading her philosophy books and teaching her about engines and giving her a childhood full of love and stars and spaghetti dinners. That's not just surviving, Ryan. That's building something beautiful. His eyes searched hers. Why does it matter to you? You have everything, the hotel, the money, the success. Why would you care about some janitor and his kid? Because you're not just some janitor. Celeste stepped closer. You're the man I fell in love with when I was 18. You're the person who taught me that there's more to life than profit margins and quarterly reports. You're Ryan, and I never stopped. She stopped herself, but it was too late. The truth was written all over her face. Never stopped what? Ryan asked quietly. Loving you, Celeste whispered. I never stopped loving you. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Ryan was kissing her, or she was kissing him, or they were kissing each other. It didn't matter, because suddenly his hands were in her hair and her arms were around his neck, and 6 years of longing and hurt and confusion poured into that kiss. He tasted like spaghetti sauce and memory and home, and when they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Celeste was crying again. I looked for you, Ryan said against her hair. After Lily died, I looked for you online. Found articles about the hotel, about you transforming it, about all your success. You look so beautiful, so confident, so far beyond anything I could ever be. I told myself it was better this way, that you deserved better than a widower with a kid and a maintenance job. Don't, Celeste said fiercely. Don't decide what I deserve. I spent 6 years thinking you didn't want me, and I built an empire trying to prove I didn't need you. But I was lying to myself. Every decision I made, every risk I took, I was trying to become someone you'd be proud of, someone worthy of the boy who saw something in me beyond my last name. I was always proud of you, Ryan said roughly. Always. Even when I hated you, when I thought you'd thrown me away like I was nothing, I was still proud. Because you're brilliant and brave and you don't give up. You never did. Daddy? Hannah's voice drifted from the bathroom. I'm done. Can you help me with my pajamas? Ryan pulled back reluctantly. I should go, Celeste said. I'll wait. She watched him disappear down the hallway, heard him talking to Hannah in that gentle voice he reserved for his daughter. While she waited, her eyes drifted back to the motorcycle visible through the window, her father's bike. The universe was either cosmically ironic or trying to tell her something. When Ryan came back, Hannah was tucked into bed with her stuffed rabbit, drowsy and content. We need to talk more, Ryan said. Figure out what this means, where we go from here. But not tonight. Tonight's been a lot, Celeste finished. I know. But Ryan, those letters you sent, do you still have them? He shook his head. Threw them out years ago. Hurt too much to keep them. What about the originals? Did you keep copies? No. Why would I? Then understanding dawned in his eyes. You want to know what I said. I want to know everything I missed. Celeste touched his face gently. 6 years, Ryan. We have 6 years to catch up on, but we have time now. We can take this slow, figure it out together. Can we? Ryan asked. You're my boss, Celeste. You're a billionaire CEO, and I'm the guy who cleans your bathrooms. People will talk. They'll say I'm using you, or you're slumming, or Hannah's a complication you don't need. Can you handle that? Can you handle people knowing about us? Celeste countered. About what we were, what we might become again? Because I'm not going to hide this. I wasted 6 years and I'm not wasting another day pretending we're just employer and employee. Ryan studied her for a long moment. Then slowly he smiled. The first real smile she'd seen from him all day. It transformed his face, brought back the boy she'd fallen for but mixed with the man he'd become. "You always did like a challenge," he said. "So did you." Celeste kissed him again, softer this time, full of promise. "Come to my office tomorrow, 8 a.m. We'll talk properly, figure out the logistics." "Yes, ma'am," Ryan said, and the teasing note in his voice made her heart soar. She left reluctantly, walking back down the stairs and out into the evening air. The drive back to her penthouse felt surreal, like she'd stepped through a door into an alternate universe. This morning she'd been alone. Tonight she had hope. Her phone buzzed with a dozen messages, crises that needed solving, decisions that needed making. But for once, Celeste ignored them all. She stood on her balcony overlooking the ocean, watching the stars come out one by one, and thought about a little girl who believed her mother had turned into a star. Maybe there was something to that. Maybe the people we loved never really left us. Maybe they became part of the universe watching over us, guiding us back to the things that mattered. Her father would have liked Ryan, eventually, if he'd given him a chance. Well, it was too late for that now, but it wasn't too late for her and Ryan. They had a second chance against all odds, and Celeste was determined not to waste it. Tomorrow she'd walk into her hotel as his boss, but she'd also walk in as the woman who loved him, who'd never stopped loving him, who was ready to fight for what they could have together. The past couldn't be changed, but the future, that was still theirs to write. The next morning, Celeste arrived at her office at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before her meeting with Ryan. She needed the time to think, to plan, to figure out how to navigate this impossible situation without destroying everything she'd built. Her phone rang before she could organize her thoughts. "Marcus, we have a problem," he said without preamble. "The health inspector is here unannounced and she's found violations in the kitchen." Celeste's stomach dropped. Health violations could sink a hotel, especially one trying to maintain a luxury reputation. What kind of violations? Temperature control issues, some outdated equipment, a leaky pipe behind the walk-in freezer. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to warrant a formal citation if we don't fix it immediately. How immediately? "She's giving us 48 hours. Celeste's mind raced. Fixing equipment took time, money, permits. 48 hours was nearly impossible. "Who's our maintenance lead on this?" "Ryan Walker. He's the most experienced with the kitchen systems. I already paged him. He's on his way in now." Of course, because the universe had a sense of humor. Celeste grabbed her tablet and headed for the kitchen. The industrial kitchen that served the hotel's 3 restaurants was usually spotless, a well-oiled machine. Today it looked like a crime scene, with the health inspector, a severe woman in her 50s, pointing out problems to Marcus, while the head chef hovered anxiously nearby. Ryan appeared through the back entrance, toolkit in hand, still in his blue uniform. His eyes found Celeste's immediately, and something passed between them, a shared acknowledgement of the timing, of the impossibility, of the fact that their personal lives would have to wait. "Talk to me," Ryan said to Marcus, all business. "What needs fixing?" They walked him through the list. Ryan listened, asked questions, examined the equipment with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Watching him work, Celeste was reminded of something she'd forgotten. Ryan wasn't just a janitor. He was a skilled mechanic, someone who understood systems and problems and solutions. He'd always been smart, resourceful, capable of fixing anything if you gave him the tools and the time. "Most of this I can handle today," Ryan said finally. "The pipe will take longer. I'll need parts, and they might not be available until tomorrow. But I can get temporary patches in place to stop the leak, replace the temperature sensors, and recalibrate the cooling system by tonight if I start now." "Will it pass inspection?" Celeste asked. Ryan met her eyes steadily. "It'll be better than passing. It'll be perfect." The health inspector frowned. "Young man, I appreciate your confidence, but these repairs require licensed contractors for some of the work." "I'm licensed," Ryan said calmly. "Refrigeration systems, HVAC, plumbing. I have my certifications. I can email you copies if you need verification." The inspector looked surprised, then grudgingly impressed. "Fine, but I'll be back in 48 hours, and if this isn't fixed properly, you're looking at a shutdown." After she left, the head chef practically sagged with relief. Marcus looked at Ryan with new respect, and Celeste felt something shift inside her chest. She'd spent years building this hotel, protecting her father's legacy, proving she could succeed in a world that had tried to count her out because she was young and female and unproven. She'd done it mostly alone, believing she had to be perfect, invulnerable, entirely self-sufficient. But maybe that was wrong. Maybe strength wasn't about doing everything yourself. Maybe it was about knowing when to trust other people, when to let someone else carry part of the weight. "Thank you," she said quietly to Ryan. "I know this isn't what you signed up for when you took this job." "It's exactly what I signed up for," Ryan replied. "I fix things. It's what I do. I fix things." Such a simple statement, but it hit Celeste hard, because maybe that's what they both needed, to fix the things that were broken between them, to repair what had been damaged by time and misunderstanding and other people's interference. "Your meeting," Ryan said after a pause. "This morning. Should we reschedule?" Celeste glanced at Marcus, at the kitchen staff bustling around them, at the very public space where they stood. "Tonight," she decided. "Come to my office after your shift ends. We'll have privacy then." Ryan nodded, understanding in his eyes. Then he turned back to the broken equipment, rolling up his sleeves, getting to work. Celeste watched him for a moment longer, then forced herself to walk away. She had a hotel to run, problems to solve, 1,000 details that needed her attention. But for the first time in years, those things didn't feel like the only things that mattered. The day passed in a blur of meetings and decisions. Celeste handled the Charleston team's questions, negotiated with suppliers, dealt with a guest complaint about noise from a neighboring room. Normal problems, normal solutions. But underneath it all, her mind kept drifting back to Ryan, to Hannah, to the possibility of a future she'd thought was lost forever. At 4 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Repairs complete. Inspector came back early to check. We passed. Everything's running better than before." Our Celeste stared at the message, reading between the lines. "We passed. Not the kitchen passed or the inspection passed. We," like they were a team, like he saw them as partners in this, even in something as mundane as fixing a leaky pipe. She saved his number, typed a response. "Thank you. I knew you could do it." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. "Did you? That means a lot." Celeste smiled at her phone like a teenager. Then she did something she never did. She cleared her evening calendar, told Marcus to handle any emergencies, and waited. Ryan appeared at her office door at exactly 8 p.m., freshly showered, wearing jeans and a gray t-shirt that made his eyes look like storm clouds. He held a folder in his hands. "Come in," Celeste said, standing up from behind her desk. "Close the door." He did, then stood there awkwardly like he didn't know what to do with himself in her space. Her office was elegant but not ostentatious, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the beach, comfortable furniture, her father's photograph on her desk. "You saved us today," Celeste said. "The kitchen, I mean. I didn't know you had all those certifications." Ryan shrugged. "I got them over the years. After Lily died, I needed steady work, something that would let me keep Hannah close. Hotel maintenance covers a lot: HVAC, plumbing, electrical, refrigeration. I figured if I was going to do it, I'd do it right." "You always do things right," Celeste said softly. "That's one of the things I loved about you. You never did anything halfway." Ryan's expression softened. He held out the folder. "I lied last night. About the letters. I didn't keep copies, but I did keep something." Celeste took the folder with trembling hands. Inside were photos. Old, faded, some creased from being carried in a wallet or a pocket. Photos of her and Ryan from that summer 6 years ago. Her on his motorcycle, laughing, her hair flying in the wind. Him teaching her to change oil, both of them covered in grease. The two of them at the beach at sunset. His arms around her waist, her head on his shoulder. Happy. So unbearably happy. "I couldn't throw these away," Ryan said quietly. "Even when I hated you, I couldn't let go of who we were. Who I thought we were." Celeste traced a finger over one of the photos, her throat tight. "We can be that again. Not exactly the same. We're different people now. But we can build something new. Something real." "Can we?" Ryan asked. "Really? Because I need to know you're serious about this, Celeste. I can't do the back and forth. I can't be your secret or your rebellion or whatever the hell we were back then. I have Hannah to think about. She's already getting attached to you. I saw her face last night. If you're going to walk away, do it now before she gets hurt." "I'm not going to walk away." Celeste set the folder down carefully, then crossed to where Ryan stood. She took his hands, looked him in the eyes. "I'm terrified, okay? I'm scared of what people will say, of how this will affect the business, of whether we can actually make this work with all the complications. But I'm more scared of losing you again. I wasted 6 years. I'm not wasting another day. Ryan searched her face. Your mother is not in charge of my life anymore, Celeste said firmly. I bought her out 3 years ago. She has no say in my decisions, personal or professional. If she doesn't like it, that's her problem. And the board? Your investors? They're not going to be thrilled about the CEO dating the janitor. Then they can find a new CEO. Celeste said it calmly, but she meant it. I've tripled this hotel's value in 3 years. I've opened 4 new properties, increased revenue by 400%, and built a reputation that brings in celebrities and politicians and people willing to pay $2,000 a night for a room. If they think they can do better without me, they're welcome to try. Ryan's lips twitched. You've gotten fierce. I had to be. The world doesn't give anything to women who ask nicely. Celeste softened her tone. But I don't want to be fierce with you. I want to be real, vulnerable, all the things I couldn't be when I was 18 and trying to prove I was mature enough to make my own choices. What are you saying? I'm saying let's do this properly. Date. Get to know each other again. Let me get to know Hannah. Take our time, but be honest about what we want. No secrets, no hiding. Just us. Figuring it out together. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, his face buried in her hair. I missed you, he whispered. God, Celeste, I missed you so much. She held him just as tightly, breathing in the scent of soap and motor oil and something uniquely Ryan. I missed you too. Every day, even when I tried not to. They stood like that for a long time, just holding each other, relearning the feel of each other's presence. Finally, Ryan pulled back enough to look at her. Your dad's motorcycle, he said. I want you to have it. Celeste's eyes widened. Ryan, no. You spent 2 years restoring it. It's yours. It was never mine. Not really. Ryan's expression was serious. It's part of your father, part of your history. You should have it. But you love that bike. I do, but I love you more. He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And maybe I've been holding on to it because it was the only connection I had left to you, to that summer, to your family, to the life I thought we'd have. But now I have you, the real thing. I don't need the symbol anymore. Celeste felt tears spilling over. What if we shared it? You keep restoring it, maintaining it, but it stays in your life, our life. When Hannah's old enough, you can teach her to ride it, keep it in the family, the way it was always meant to be. Ryan's smile was like sunrise. Yeah, I'd like that. They kissed again, slower this time, savoring it. And for the first time in 6 years, Celeste felt complete. The knock on her office door made them both jump apart guiltily. Celeste smoothed her hair, straightened her blazer, trying to look professional. Come in. Marcus opened the door, took one look at them and had the grace to look apologetic. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. The governor's chief of staff is on the phone. They want to book the entire hotel for a summit next month. 3 days, full buyout, press included. But they need an answer tonight. Celeste's mind shifted gears instantly. A full buyout was huge revenue, massive publicity, but it also meant displacing dozens of existing reservations, coordinating with security services, handling media. It was the kind of opportunity that could elevate the hotel to the next level, or become a logistical nightmare if mishandled. Tell them I'll call back in 10 minutes, Celeste said. I need to run the numbers. Marcus nodded and left, closing the door behind him. Ryan stepped back, giving her space. You should take this. It sounds important. It is, but so is this. Celeste gestured between them. So are you. I'm not going anywhere, Ryan said with quiet certainty. Take your call, handle your business. I'll be here when you're done. We have time now, remember? Celeste nodded, feeling the truth of it settle in her bones. They did have time. Not stolen moments or secret meetings or desperate last chances. They had time to build something real, something lasting. As Ryan left her office, he paused at the door and looked back. By the way, Hannah asked if you'd come to dinner again. She wants to show you her science project. I'd love that, Celeste said, meaning it with her whole heart. After he left, Celeste stood at her window looking out at the ocean, the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Her phone buzzed with the governor's number flashing. A decision needed to be made. A future needed to be shaped. But for the first time in years, Celeste wasn't thinking about just business, just profit margins, just the next success. She was thinking about a little blonde girl who made bracelets and asked big questions. About a man who fixed things and loved deeply and had never stopped fighting for what mattered. About second chances and blue motorcycles and stars that watched over them all. She picked up the phone. This is Celeste Davenport. But even as she talked numbers and logistics and details, part of her mind was already planning dinner with Ryan and Hannah, thinking about slow Sunday mornings and teaching a 7-year-old about hotel management, and watching Ryan work on the Harley while the sun set over the ocean. The past had been painful, the present was complicated, but the future was theirs to build together. And Celeste Davenport had always been good at building things. 3 weeks later, Celeste stood in Ryan's small apartment kitchen, flour dusting her royal blue blazer, watching Hannah flip a pancake. When it landed back in the pan, the 7-year-old threw her arms up in victory. "I did it. Did you see, Miss Celeste? Best pancake flip ever," Celeste said, grinning. Ryan leaned against the door frame, coffee mug in hand, watching them with an expression that made Celeste's heart ache beautifully. This had become their Sunday routine. Breakfast together, then working on the Harley while Hannah colored nearby. Simple, domestic, everything she'd been starving for. "Can Miss Celeste come to the beach with us today?" Hannah asked. "Please. I cleared my whole day," Celeste said. "Beach sounds perfect." Hannah squealed with delight. Later, walking along the shoreline with Hannah running ahead chasing seagulls, Ryan took Celeste's hand. His fingers were calloused but gentle. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," he admitted. "For you to realize this is too complicated. We were always different. That was never the problem," Celeste said. "I don't care what anyone thinks. I care about you, about Hannah, about building something real even if it's hard." Ryan stopped, facing her. The ocean wind whipped his hair, sunlight catching in his gray eyes. "I love you. I never stopped. But Hannah comes first. Always. She's part of this too," Celeste promised. "Part of us. I just want to be in your lives, however that looks." "Daddy, Miss Celeste!" Hannah ran back, clutching something. "Look what I found." She opened her hand. A piece of blue sea glass, the exact color of the Harley. "Can we put it on the bike?" Hannah asked. "Like a lucky charm?" "Absolutely," Ryan said. Hannah threw her arms around Celeste's waist. "You make Daddy smile more. I like when he smiles." Celeste hugged her back, tears in her eyes. "I like when he smiles too." That evening, after saying goodbye to Ryan and Hannah, Celeste drove to her mother's house for the first time in 6 months. The confrontation was inevitable. Patricia Davenport answered the door, her expression cool. "Celeste, this is unexpected. We need to talk about Ryan. About the letters you intercepted 6 years ago." Her mother's face hardened. "I did what was necessary to protect you." "You lied," Celeste said, fury burning beneath her steady voice. "You made me think he abandoned me. You destroyed 16 letters, blocked calls, had security throw him out. You let me believe I wasn't worth fighting for. He wasn't good enough. A mechanic's son with no prospects, no future. I would have been happy." Celeste's control cracked. "I loved him, and you took that away because it didn't fit your vision. Well, he's back. We're together, and nothing you say will change that. He has a child. You're willing to take on someone else's burden." "Don't call Hannah a burden." Celeste's voice turned to ice. "She's incredible, and I'm honored to know her. This is my life, my choice." Her mother stared at her for a long moment. Then quietly, "Your father would be disappointed. Dad loved me enough to want me happy. The only disappointment is that you never understood that love isn't about status or money. It's about showing up for each other." Ryan always understood that. She left without waiting for a response, feeling lighter, like she'd cut loose a weight she'd been dragging for years. 2 days later, Hannah appeared at Celeste's office after school, her backpack bouncing excitedly. Ryan followed, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry." She insisted on coming, said she had something important to show you. "It's always okay," Celeste assured him, then turned to Hannah with a smile. "What's up, sweetheart?" Hannah climbed into one of the big leather chairs, her feet dangling, and carefully pulled something from her backpack. An envelope yellowed with age, the edges soft from years of handling. "I found this in Daddy's workshop," Hannah explained, her gray eyes serious. "It was stuck way behind the toolboard. I only found it because I dropped my bracelet back there. Daddy said it's really, really old and it has your name on it, so I thought you should have it." Celeste took the envelope with trembling hands. Her name was scrawled across the front in Ryan's handwriting. Younger, messier, more urgent than it was now. She looked up at Ryan, who shook his head slowly. "I don't know how that one survived. I really thought I'd thrown them all out years ago. Must have fallen behind the board when I was moving my tools." Celeste's fingers shook as she carefully opened it. Inside was a letter, several pages in Ryan's hand, dated almost exactly 6 years ago. Her eyes began to blur with tears as she read, "Dear Celeste, this is my 16th letter. I don't know if you'll ever read it, or if you're reading all of them and just don't care anymore. But I have to keep trying, because giving up on you feels like giving up on everything that matters in this world." The letter went on for pages. Ryan talking about his mother's illness, about the garage job he'd gotten, about his dreams for their future together, about how much he loved her, how he was working every extra hour to become someone worthy of her, how he believed they could make it work if they just held on a little longer. The last paragraph shattered her completely. "Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe you've already moved on and I'm just writing to a ghost of what we had. But I have to believe that what we shared was real, that it mattered, that someday we'll find our way back to each other. Because you're it for me, Celeste. You're the only thing that's ever felt like home. I'll wait as long as it takes. I'll love you until the stars burn out, and if you never come back, I'll spend the rest of my life grateful I got to love you at all. Forever yours." Ryan. Celeste looked up through her tears, vision blurred. "This is why you kept the bike. You were waiting." Ryan's throat worked, emotions playing across his face. "I didn't even realize it until right now. But yeah, I think part of me was always waiting, always hoping." Hannah looked between them, her small face confused and concerned. "Why are you crying? Are you sad? Did the letter make you sad?" "No, baby," Celeste managed, her voice thick. "I'm happy. These are happy tears. Sometimes people cry when they're really, really happy." "Oh, good." Hannah brightened immediately. Then her expression turned thoughtful. "Then can I ask my important question now? The one I've been thinking about?" "What question, sweetheart?" Ryan asked gently. Hannah looked at Celeste with the earnest seriousness that only children can manage. Her gray eyes, so much like her father's, completely sincere. "Would you want to be my friend? Like a special friend who comes to dinner and helps with homework and maybe sometimes puts me to bed when Daddy's tired? Because I think you're really nice and you smell like flowers and you don't talk to me like I'm a baby. You talk to me like I'm a real person, and I really like that." Celeste pulled Hannah into a fierce hug, unable to speak for a moment. Over the little girl's head, she met Ryan's eyes and saw everything she needed to know reflected there. This wasn't about proving anything anymore. It wasn't about empire building or living up to expectations or fighting old battles. It was about this man who'd waited 6 years, who'd written 16 letters to a silence that answered back with nothing. This little girl who just wanted more people to love her, who saw the world with open hands and an open heart, a chance to build something that mattered more than money or success or anything else in the world. "I would be so honored," Celeste whispered to Hannah, holding her close. So honored to be your friend." 6 months later, Celeste stood on the beach watching Ryan teach Hannah to ride the Harley. The little girl's laughter carried on the wind as Ryan walked beside her, hands ready to steady the bike. Celeste touched the sea glass pendant around her neck, the piece Hannah had found, now set in silver. In her pocket was a small velvet box, its weight both terrifying and right. She knew with bone-deep certainty that she wanted forever with these two. Sunday pancakes and Harley repairs and bedtime stories. She wanted home, and she'd finally found it. Ryan caught her eye from down the beach and smiled. Hannah waved frantically and Ryan steadied her with gentle hands. "Easy, baby girl. I've got you." That's what love was. Not grand gestures or perfect moments. Just showing up day after day saying I've got you and meaning it. The past couldn't be rewritten, but the future stretched out like the ocean. Vast, unpredictable, full of possibility. And Celeste Davenport wasn't afraid, because she wasn't facing it alone. That evening, Celeste sat on her penthouse balcony watching the sunset. Her phone showed missed calls and urgent emails. Tomorrow she'd handle it all. Tomorrow she'd be the CEO again. Tonight she was just Celeste, just a woman who'd found her way back to love. She opened her messages and typed, "Hello, my friend, how was your day today? Is everything okay?" Ryan's reply came quickly. "Perfect. You made it perfect. Love you." She smiled, saving the message like treasure. She wondered, did any of you have an important object that brought you back to someone you loved? A letter, a photograph, something that reminded you that some connections never truly break no matter how much time passes. She'd found hers in a yellowed envelope and a blue motorcycle, in a little girl's laughter and a man's patient hands, in the courage to choose love over fear, connection over isolation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight she had everything that mattered, and that was enough.